Hello and welcome to Deceptive Secrets. And today is a little bit different. We're going to be having an interview with somebody. So this person, without giving him a massive intro, he doesn't really need one, to be honest. He's took the magic world by storm for the last couple of years, but he blends comedy and magic. He's amassed over 150 million views online. It's probably more now. I mean, when I checked that was true. But he has also been on BGT. You probably know who I'm talking about. I'm going to bring him in, Mr. Jack Rhodes. Jack, how are you?
I'm very well, mate. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm okay.
Good.
There. Yeah, good
Some
stuff.
intro.
Was it? I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's good to have you on. And I know we met, I think, in Blackpool, right? We were chatting in Blackpool on
Yeah,
Sam's
that's right. Yep.
stand. So
Yep, on the solo stand.
On the Solo stand. So for those who haven't checked out Solo, check out Solo. We might
How
get
long was
into
that? We're a minute in, and we got a plug for a product already.
I know, that's good, isn't it? Yeah, not too bad. Right, no more plugs for Solo. Yeah, but obviously you've had quite a year or two, right, within Magic, and I think a lot of people know your name now because of probably, it'd be fair to say, your YouTube channel, and then of course BGT. So I've got a bunch of questions that we can dive into, but how's everything going, first of all? I feel like you're the busiest man.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a year. I'll give you the long story short. For those who don't know, quick backstory. I used to be a nuclear engineer. That was my job. I gave up that job to do Magic, which sounds stupid when you say it, doesn't it? Which was August last year. And that's when I started doing my YouTube stuff like full time. And then that sort of really took off back end of last year. And then I did BGT this year. And the whole thing, basically, since quitting my job to do it properly, has just kind of spiraled out of control now. And yeah, it's madness. But in a good way. I never thought I'd be doing this. So yeah, it's going well.
I think I remember seeing the video actually when you're saying about, I'm going to give myself like X amount of time, right? To kind of give this a go. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it was like a sabbatical. So it was like, career break. Technically, I had an agreement with my old employer where I could take 9 months off. And if it didn't work out, I'd go back to my day job. And I'd saved up enough money where if I didn't earn any money in that 9 months, it was like basically a risk-free way of giving it a go. So I was quite lucky to be in that position in the first place. But yeah, I had 9 months and I was like, right, if I can't do it in that time, then it's not happening. But at least I gave it a go when I had the chance. But yeah, then I did give it a go and it went all a bit mental.
Yeah. No, you're doing pretty well, I guess. So, I mean, on the BGT front then, so we'll kind of dive into that a little bit. So how did that come about? Because obviously you said you gave the YouTube a proper go, and that was maybe August. And then, for anyone who's not seen Jack's videos, like pause this now, go and check out his YouTube. But then you went from that to, I mean, it was a bit of a secret, right? But then you were on BGT. So like, how did all of that come about?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the weirdest backstory ever, but as part of my YouTube stuff, I used to do a lot of parodies where I'd put a green screen up behind me and I would pretend to be on various different shows and movies. And one of them was Britain's Got Talent. I'd just be like pulling my thumb off and I'd cut to Simon Cowell and he's losing his head and the judge is going, how did he do that? Yeah. And it was just a Mickey take. And it felt like when I did that, that video went viral to the point where people genuinely thought I'd actually been on the show, even though they must have not watched it properly, but like they just seen me the viral clip on BGT. This was a few years ago. And I remember I nearly did it during COVID. And then it obviously that series, I think they canned it, then they did it a year after, but I wasn't interested then. But this year I was like, there's not really a lot to lose. The parody side of it is a good in. It's a good way of getting the attention of people. And also, like, if it goes bad, like the risk is if it goes bad, you look a bit of a tool and you don't get booked again. And if it goes well, then great. But I was like, well, it don't matter if it goes bad because either way, I've got my YouTube thing that's already working out. And actually, no matter what happens, I can make a funny video out of it. If it goes bad, the story's still funny. I pretended to go on the show, then I did do the show for real, and I died on my ass. Or it goes well, and suddenly you're in this new world. So I kind of went in with nothing to lose, and we filmed the audition in February, I think, and it went well. And then it was like, right, okay, actually now I kind of do care how this goes, because then you're in the competition, you find out you're in the semi-final, and you're like, shit, we're in the real world now.
Yeah. And for those who have, I mean, I assume we can spoil it now. You did pretty well. Like, you did pretty well.
Second, that's not bad.
Yeah, that's not bad. So, I mean, obviously, I remember I was sitting in the lounge watching the final, and it was, again, I might misremember the format, but it felt as though you were amongst a few people, and then they were not being eliminated, but it was being kind of revealed, the results kind of step at a time, and those people were then leaving the show. And before you knew it, there was just you, and I think Sydney was there with you. Like, how did that feel in that moment? Because that must have been crazy.
Oh,
right?
That was mad. Well, what's interesting is, that whole results thing. You have to rehearse that. You do a full like dress rehearsal, where you basically do the whole show in the morning. And Ant and Dec are there, and they rehearse the lines and stuff, and they bring you out, and you do your act as if you're doing it to the judges, but the judges aren't there, and there's no audience, but it's just so the cameramen know where to look in, and and the director knows what shot they want and stuff. And you rehearse the results, because people need to know when they get eliminated, like, where do they walk out, which way, and if you're in the final three, where do you stand? And in the rehearsal, I remember being nervous, like they've just got a random result, and I remember being in the final two in the rehearsal, and then they announced that I won the thing in the rehearsal, and I was like, this is the most mental thing ever. So then to be in the final two in the actual thing, I was like, oh, right, like, it was just, I mean, I was happy just to be in the final. I did not go in with the expectation to, I wasn't bothered if I won it or what. I just wanted to do my act well. So as soon as I'd done my act and it had gone all right, I was like, right, I'm happy now. I don't really care where I place. I'm happy that the act went well. That was the main thing. And then you sort of like, you're in the top three, then you're in the top two, and then you're going, you know what, 250 grand is quite a lot of money in it. Like, suddenly you start thinking, I wonder if, like, but I wasn't gutted when Sydney Christmas was announced the winner. I genuinely was just like buzzing to come second. There was no part of me that was like, I wasn't thinking about the money or anything like that. It was mad. I mean, it was just like surreal. And I remember laughing. I don't think the camera caught it, but in the top two, because they'd go like, oh, right, and in second place is dum dum, dum dum. And they do the dum-dums for about 5 minutes, and you sort of going, will you just tell us who's won here? And I remember just laughing at how long it took for them to announce who'd won, but I don't think they caught the laugh. So I was I was nervous, but I was like pretty relaxed. I didn't really care what the outcome was. Like I said, the whole thing was, I'll just do it, and if it goes bad, it's not a problem. If it goes well, then great, and it did go well. So
yeah, it did, absolutely. And I think you had every single magician that I know over Facebook was definitely watching that at that time, because it was just all that was on social media at the time. So everyone was rooting for you, man. So question about, like, again, like, I guess BGT. So from a performance perspective, because so you've gone, like, for those who don't know, like, prior to YouTube, like, you were like performing in the real world, right, for real people. That is, I think we should just address that, because my question was going to be around, did it change your perspective around performance? Like, what are the additional considerations that you didn't think you didn't know about beforehand? Like, I'm sure there was a lot, right?
Yeah, there was a lot. So I used to do close-up sets at weddings. I was part of a trio called Lake's Wedding Magicians, and we would do weddings and stuff, but on a weekend. And like I say, it was just for the fun of it. It wasn't really for the money, because I had a proper job. But then I started doing stand-up comedy. I sort of quit close-up magic. I sort of got a bit bored with it. Started doing comedy on the Northern Comedy Circuit, and then COVID hit, and then there were no gigs, and that's when I started doing the videos. So, like, the performing side of it, I always thought was like changing. So I would do, like, the close-up stuff was a different thing to the stand-up, and then video was a whole different thing to that. But actually, I think the BGT thing, having done the video stuff was kind of good preparation for BGT, because the main difference between like you doing stage magic and doing BGT is you've got to be thinking. Not only have you got an audience in front of you, you know, like when you do the audition, I did it in the Lowry in Manchester. It's like 3,000 people or whatever. And it's like, yeah, you got to think about that audience, but you're also thinking about the audience that are watching it at home via the camera. So it's a different skill to know what translates well over a TV screen. And it's the same thing with YouTube, knowing what's going to work, not just in a room, but also for people that are watching it at home. So that was the main thing. Like like little things where if you hold up a card to reveal that you got the right card, if you do that in a close-up setting, you can just show it, everybody reacts, you've got it. But if you do that when you're on telly, you've got to show the card. You've got to give another few seconds for the director. Oh, shit, we need that camera shot, right? The cameraman needs to get it, hold it, let it sink in. And then, so everything, it kind of throws you off. Everything is a different sort of rhythm to it, which you kind of have to get around in your head. And that was slightly different to the YouTube stuff, because on the YouTube stuff, I'm in control of the edit. I know exactly how it's going to look. But actually, I've got no idea when it's live. And this is the other thing. Like the audition, there's a little bit less pressure there because they've got that many camera angles that can make it work no matter what, really. But for the semi-final and the final, you are live, and anything that happens in the moment is going to be broadcast live. So you need to make sure that everybody's on the same page. You need to make sure that your act is exactly the same every time you do it, pretty much. So that the cameraman knows exactly where they're looking. So yeah, that whole side of it was a whole new thing. And obviously, like, there's an argument to be made that going from close up to stage is a whole different thing. Like the first thing you notice when you go on stage is I can't see the audience. The lights are that bright. I can only see the front row, and it's just a black mass behind that, and I can't see anything. And it's the same for the camera. When you look at a camera, you just see a red recording light and a black mass behind it. So in that way, like, I think the camera performance on video is a good preparation for like big stage gigs, because you basically ignore the audience and just pretend you're performing to a camera, and it's the same thing.
On kind of just delving a little bit deeper on kind of your experience on BGT, then I guess it's a two-pronged question, and it was, what was the most enjoyable moment that you had on BGT? And then as a follow-up, what was the most challenging time that you had on BGT? Was there any kind of spanners in the works where you thought, oh God, like, you know, what's going on here? So yeah. Two-pronged question.
Yeah, there was what's funny with the BGT thing, so you do the audition and then you generally find out a good few weeks in advance of the semi-final whether or not you've made it through the lives. Okay. And for the audition, I had lots of time to prep, get it sorted, and I was working quite close with Russ Stevens, who's basically the magic director on the show. And like that was new to me, the whole collaborate with other people. And like every script has got to be passed off by the compliance team. You can't be swearing, you can't be making any innuendos and all this stuff. And it's like, all right, this whole thing's a learning curve, but yep, happy to do that. But the best bit was, and I will always remember this, the semi-final. There was so much that could have gone wrong on that semi-final. For those who haven't seen it, I basically...
In terms of your act, you mean?
Yeah, my act, yeah. Right. Yeah. So, quick headline for anybody who hasn't seen it. The act starts with me getting Simon to pick a card. There's a TV on a stand that's just by the judge's table. And there's a version of me that pops up on the TV screen and basically goes, you're not just going to do a card trick. This is the semi-final. Come on, you got to go big. I tell you what, bring out the crate of death. And then this big, massive crate gets brought out on stage. And basically TV Jack is now directing me, get in the crate, take the cards. You're going to find Simon's card, right, under proper conditions. And I get in this crate and I put my hands through the crate holes and you can see me shuffling the cards. And then these two lads stick some sticks of dynamite in the crate. It's like, right, you've got 10 seconds to find Simon's card. Otherwise you're a goner, right? And anyway, the time runs out. The crate blows up, and I disappear, and the cards are everywhere. And it's like, what the hell's going on? And now we're back on the TV screen, and I basically climb out the TV screen. Yes, and give Simon his card. Yeah, there was logistically so much that had to happen for that to work. There was like but that was a full team effort, full crew, and it looks like it's just me doing it. But there's a full crew, even like the choreography of the people bringing out the crate, bringing it back. the timing of everything, because there's a TV screen playing at the same time. There's so much that could have gone wrong. But the most enjoyable moment was when I climbed out of that screen and the place erupted. The judges are already stood up, and I've got Sam's card in my mouth, and I know I have, and I'm set that nothing else can go wrong. It's literally now I get the buzz of just walking out, looking dead cool, and showing Simon's card. That was the best bit. And I'll remember that. The roar in the place was unreal. The worst bit was, I mean, it was quite a stressful time. Like, I can't tell you, like that 2 weeks where you're prepping for the semi-final, and I didn't think I'd get through to the final, by the way. So
everything went into the semi-final.
Everything went into the semi-final. And then when I won the semi-final and I know I'm in the final, I was like, oh, shit. Okay.
So what's that kind of time frame from you? I can't remember, from the semi-final to you performing in the final. What have you got time-wise to?
I was either the Tuesday night or the Wednesday night, and it was the Sunday night was going to be the final. So you've got like 4 or 5 days.
Oh.
Yeah, but you need it ready for the Saturday because you do like a full rehearsal on the Saturday. So for the people that are doing the semi on the Friday, you've basically got overnight to prepare an act for the Saturday. But it's madness. So this is what I mean when it's stressful. But I always knew that. I was like, right, in the back of my head, if I get through to the final, because this sort of producers ask you, you know, what if you do get through, what ideas have you got for the final? And I pitched the lie detector hat. And I was like, I think that'd be really funny if I can put that on Simon's head. And in the background, because I wanted to sort of transition into like more live stuff, I'd sort of got this hat made up because when I did it on video, it's just like a digital effect and I can have the sound effect in, but I wanted to actually do it live.
So for those who don't know, you'd had a video, right, already using this kind of premise of the hat,
basically a light bulb on a bowler hat, and it pings green when I tell the truth and it flashes red when I tell a lie. And, you know, I'd be saying stuff like, this is the world's best card trick. All right, it's a pretty good card trick. Bing. And I was like, I want to do that. And I think it'd be really funny to take the hat off and put it on Simon's head. And the producers are like, yep, that's great. So I was like, right, well, that's great. So if I get through, that's what I'll do. But I didn't think I'd get through. And then I did get through. Suddenly, oh, right, okay, I've got to make this routine now. And I did, and I scripted it with the help of some mates, and we got this routine together, and it was like, right, this is brilliant. And then Saturday night, the hat broke.
Oh,
yeah. And
it was the only one you had.
It was the only one. Yeah, it was a prototype. Like I wasn't. If I'd have known I'd be in the final, I'd have had a spare made up, and it broke. And I was like, well, there is no routine without this hat. Like it's too late to come up with something now. And then I was up until I think 2 a.m. that night with my mate who made it. A guy called Mark Lemon, incredible magic inventor and consultant. And he'd made this hat, and he came over last minute, traveled down to London and got it working again. But it was like touch and go, because if the components were broken, we didn't, like, Maplins is no longer a thing. You can't go, like, we couldn't order anything next day delivery. Yeah, it was like if a component is broken, we're knackered here. Like, it's too late. So yeah, I went to bed at 2 a.m. Saturday night, when I should have been going to bed dead early because it's going to be a long day on Sunday.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was horrific. And also, like, I mean, not to give too much away, but it works off. I don't know if I should say this.
Well,
the method.
You don't have to.
The way that it works, let's just say,
cryptic.
I'll be cryptic. I'm in control of the hat, and the way I control it, I'd never tried that method in a room. I don't know. Basically, there's a signal thing going on, right? Yeah. And if I'm in a room with 3,000 people at the Hammersmith Apollo, and there's all these audio receivers and camera gear, I was like, I have no idea, right? If I press the button for it to go, is it actually going to work? So that I was super nervous about that. So I really enjoyed the semi-final, but the build up to the final was horrific. But that's the one I'm most proud of, because when I look back on that, there was a lot of risks we took for that routine, and like it paid off really well. And it felt like the most me as well. Like throughout the competition, it became more of my sort of style, because I think you sort of build a trust off people, and they go, yeah, we'll let him do the hat, and he can script the whole thing. So yeah, that was horrific though at the time.
Yeah, I can imagine now. Well, it makes sense now why you had that kind of real sense of happiness in the final, regardless of whether the result went your way
Yeah,
or not. Right?
this is what I mean. I was just happy that it worked and it went well. And
Yeah,
like, I mean, it couldn't have gone any better, really. The whole thing with, I was also nervous that Simon was going to turn around and say, "You're not sticking that in my head."
he was a good sport, wasn't he? To be
He
fair,
was. He was a really good
yeah,
sport, and like the judges were like the whole thing, and then it became a meme. The whole thing, like, it couldn't have gone any better. But at the time, I was like, I just want this sodding thing to work.
yeah, I bet. So you mentioned there about your style and kind of maybe more of that kind of coming through maybe in that final, right? With
Yeah.
the kind of the hat premise and the routine there. In terms of kind of inspiration that you've got over the years as you've kind of maybe transitioned from close-up magic to kind of maybe doing some more of the stand-up comedy and things, and obviously you've got the video and now TV as well. Like, are there any kind of in your head kind of standout maybe magicians or performers in general that you would say have inspired or helped shape your style, what it's come to be, kind of thing?
Yeah, it's interesting because if you'd have seen me during the close-up days,
Mm-hmm.
it would be like watching a different person.
Interesting.
Yeah, so like my close-up, which we can look at later on if you want, but
Mm-hmm. Sure.
the styles that influence that would be like people like Danny D. Ortiz.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm.
And people like, well, also people like Greg Wilson, because I don't feel Greg Wilson, I liked him because he didn't really take it too serious. It was always quite light-hearted with him. Oh, it's a bit of
Yes.
Mickey taking, do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's also skillful.
Mm.
And then my style kind of changed when I went to more stand-up comedy. Then it was more like self-deprecating because it's actually quite hard to be funny whilst being clearly quite good at something.
Mm.
Because it's easier to be funny when you're rubbish at something because it's just like, oh, let's laugh at the silly man who can't do what he's trying to do. That's an easier comedic premise
Mm.
than I'm actually quite good. So I found that to get around that, in my head, I was like, well, the best way of being funny is going, look at this amazing thing I can do, but just think about the reality of me being sat alone in my room practicing this thing. What a sad
Right.
bastard sort of thing.
Yeah.
That was my.
Yeah. Bring it
I was
back
like, right,
down.
that's the
Yeah.
yeah. So it was like it's almost like yeah, the style being I can do this amazing thing, but I thought you shouldn't respect this. This is too much time spent alone doing it. And that was kind of reflected in the video. And then when I started doing the video stuff, the style changed again because I'm using sound effects and you can make funny things happen with the editing. So that's when I was going into the live stuff. I was like, right, I want to try and somehow capture my style that's on video and do it like live. So I
Yeah.
want to use sound effects. I want to use music, and I want to have like it's so easy to make a joke, and it can be made better by having a sound effect that just rises and then cuts off. Then you say the line, and it's like it's more of a contrast. And it's funnier. So like in the lie detector routine in the final, for example, like when I'm opening a case and I'm shutting it, and there's like these dead dramatic sound effects and stuff, and it builds up the anticipation, and you bring out this daft hat. Like stuff like that you'd see
Yeah.
in video, and I was like, I want to try and get that. So there's lots of different things that have affected the style, and there's a few people, and like I kind of am more probably take more influence now off comedians than magicians
Sure.
because I feel like I found my own style of magic. Every now and again, I'll see somebody do something in a certain style. I'm like, oh, that's nice, but I never want to. I'm now in a position where I don't want to copy. I don't want to copy
Yeah.
the material, and I don't want to copy anybody's style. So I kind of try and avoid watching too much magic because I was in the early days victim to when you watch a video tutorial and you see them do it in that script and you see it work.
Yeah.
And then you think, oh, right, I'll do it that way then. And then you do it and it works. And then you're scared to ever change it because you think, oh, it might not work if I slightly change that line or change this.
Mm.
So it takes a bit of time to find your style. But again, doing the video stuff really and doing the stand-up comedy really makes you become a bit self-aware of how you come across, which is a massive thing that a lot of magicians don't really quite understand yet. But if you film a gig, watch yourself back, there'll be so many things that you do that you don't realize you're doing in the moment. One of the things I used to say all the time on stage was, I'd be like, all right, now we're gonna do this. Yeah, we're gonna do a trick. Can you just pass me that? Every other word would be and it's like I did not. It was so annoying. I did not realize it was a thing. And then you watch it back. But even now, it's like it's stuff like that that you don't realize until you. Jesus Christ, I'm doing it now. Until you watch.
You've triggered yourself now.
I've triggered it. So it's stuff like that, and yeah, I think for people that want to do stage, I will honestly, if you can watch yourself back on video, you'll learn more about your own character and style than watching other people.
Yeah, solid advice. I think in terms of using video, I mean, I've filmed some of my performances and things at weddings and what have you. And there's things that I say, and I'm thinking, why am I
Yeah,
saying that? Like, what?
yeah.
There's no need for that. Like, just not as in I'm not offending anyone, but I'm just there's
Just
things I'm
filler,
saying
isn't
where
it?
yeah,
Yeah,
it's irrelevant. It's and I think you get caught up conversationally, and I like to think a lot of my magic can be quite conversational, and that's fine. But when you watch back on video, like you say, there's so many things you notice that you just were not aware of. I think that
yeah,
in itself is quite powerful, because even if you take one thing there and tweak it, you then
yeah,
start to become more accustomed to this idea of experimentation and
yeah.
trying things. And we're not going to get it right all the time. So why would we get it right first time?
Exactly.
Experiment, be open to this idea of trying things, new things, and watching yourself back on video is a powerful resource to have if you're doing that right.
Exactly. Even now, I film every single gig I do, whether
Yeah.
it's a big theatre gig or it's a little one. I don't really do close up anymore, but I will film every gig, and the entire thing is scripted. The entire thing, I know exactly what I'm going to say, and even the bits. There are certain bits where it's a bit more conversational, but even then, I'm primed for certain responses. That was the whole thing with the lie detector hat on Simon's head. He had no idea what was coming. It was not set up or anything, but I knew what questions I was going to ask. And when I said to the other judges, "What do you want to ask him?" You can kind of guess what they're going to say anyway. And if you can prepare lines for that, you can then look like you're being really witty in the moment, but you've prepared it all.
Yeah.
And that's the main difference between the close up and the stage. Is the close up is more conversational. You can't really do a fully scripted thing because something might happen in the moment. You need to be adaptable. Whereas on stage, it's generally an audience are watching a show, and it's just you on your own.
Yes. I've noticed there's one thing that I'm not going to say what it is, because I reckon people will pick up on it. But kind of doing more content like this online with the membership and kind of teaching magic. There's things that I say, and I'm like, why do I say that all the time? There's like these two or three words that go together, and it annoys you. When you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Then
but don't tell anyone, because that's all you'll hear.
I'm not. So you mentioned before about your close-up days, and I know that's not necessarily where you are now. And you did say, maybe close-up gigs, you're probably not doing them at the moment. That's not where you are. But I think people watching this will be intrigued to hear a bit more about your close-up days and, what type of magic, what would a rough working set look like for Jack Rhodes in his close-up days? Sorry to interrupt, but if you want to watch this bit of the interview where Jack talks about his close-up set, you will need to join the membership as a free member. So somewhere below, somewhere here, you'll be able to click to join as a free member, and you'll be able to enjoy that snippet of the interview where Jack talks about his close-up set, his working set. However, if you don't sign up, the rest of the interview will start now.
But yeah, you can do. It plays big. It plays really big.
Yeah. Cool. So I know you've mentioned a little bit around this, I feel, but for those who currently perform close-up magic and would like to experiment, maybe one day performing on stage, or maybe even performing for slightly larger audiences such as Parlour, or even maybe if people wanted to kind of get on the stage and give comedy a go, like what advice would you have? Because you've obviously taken that transition, and I feel like you've touched on probably points throughout this, but just to kind of, if you had to give a piece of advice, what would it be?
I think the main thing that when you're doing close up, you can sort of get away with being lazy. You can be lazy with the lines. You can do the same, like I mentioned there, stock lines or the script that you've bought from the download. You can get away with doing it as it is, because I think with close up, it's less about you and it's more about the tricks, because you've got to be in there. You've got to be quick. You've got 5 minutes to impress the table or whatever. When you go on stage, it's more about you than it is the tricks. And so it's more about your style, it's about your delivery, it's about what separates you, what makes you different from every other magician that they've seen, or comedian. And it's so important that you establish your own persona and do your own script and lines. That if you walked into a comedy club and you were doing, for example, jokes that somebody else does, like if you go into a comedy club and you start doing Peter Kay's garlic bread bit,
Yeah,
right,
be
you're gonna
thrown
get
out,
kicked
wouldn't
out of the club. Yeah,
you?
yeah. But for magicians, we're more than happy to do hold out your hand, know
It's
the
like the
clean
Wild
hand.
West. Yeah.
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 So my main advice would be just ensure that you're being different. And the way that you do that is you film yourself back, see what works, try new stuff, have a bit of risk, try a line, even if it's one line that you've never done before, that feels more like you, just try that. And if it don't work, that's fine, right? When you first start out and you're doing open mics, this is for like a comedy thing, open mic gigs, there might be like 10 people in the audience. It doesn't matter if you're down your ass. You've kind of got to get over your own fear of failure.
Yes.
Film every gig, make a note of what worked, make a note of what didn't, and stuff that happens in the moment that feels off the cuff. There's always a way of making that work every gig. You can recreate stuff that feels off the cuff.
Yeah. We well, a mutual friend of ours now, Sam Fitton. I remember
Yeah.
Sam. There's a story, and I'll let Sam tell it sometime around one of his shows where something happened again by accident in one of the shows, and it was one of the funniest moments in his show. And he then, worked hard to think about how can I orchestrate that moment every time, right? It's the same. Like there are moments, even in close-up world, where I'll be performing and someone says something in a situation, in a moment, you think that's funnier than anything I would have come up with there. I'm going to think about that, and I'm going to think about how can I work that into kind of that routine a little bit. So yeah, for sure. Like feeding off your audiences and kind of using that as a bit of a feedback mechanism in that way as well can obviously be quite healthy.
Yeah, especially with close-ups. Sometimes the best lines are the ones the audience says, and you go,
Yeah.
I'll have that.
Yeah, 100%. I was going to ask a question outside of magic, right? So you've mentioned a little bit about like your career kind of prior to kind of giving this a go properly. You said proper job, but I feel like this is a proper job for you now, Jack.
Yeah, it is now.
It is now. My question is, outside of magic, outside of performance, what any other hobbies do you have? When you get some probably very rare downtime, what does Jack do?
Well, this is my problem because I'm now doing a job where I enjoy my work. The free time is spent doing more work, working on routines, video editing, whatever. But I have got some hobby. I mean, I was quite an obsessive kid in that I would practice magic religiously, but I would also do lots of other weird things. I play guitar, banjo, ukulele, mandolin. I'm a big music fan. I love to play all these different instruments, and I would obsessively play as a kid. So that's kind of, and I kind of need to get back into that. But like in my live show,
instruments? So you play instruments, right? Okay.
Yeah. And like that's partly what like some of the music in my videos is music that I've made.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. And like part of the show that I'm making now with the live show is using music with the magic, and that's where I can kind of combine hobbies and stuff, which is great. And like as a kid, this kind of inspired the video editing, but like Wallace and Gromit, stop motion, clay animation puppets. I used to do that as a kid. I used to make my own puppets and have a little studio in my bedroom. Like basically all the things that require you to be inside and have no friends is what I would love to do. So it's weird that I'm a bit now social and go out and do live gigs. But yeah, I mean the stop motion stuff, that kind of taught me the patience. Like these guys, the Aardman Studios that make Wallace and Gromit, they'll take a picture, move the puppet, take a picture, move the puppet. They make 5 seconds of footage a day. It takes 5 years to make a feature film.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy.
It's unreal. And it really teaches you the value of just putting the time into something to get it right. And it's the same with sleight of hand. And one thing that was quite an interesting crossover between the worlds of animation and the world of magic is in animation, like if you've got a puppet and you're trying to make it walk, you're comparing what your puppet looks like compared to footage of somebody walking. So you're studying the way that the hand swings in time with the leg and all this stuff. And it's the same with sleight of hand. Like if you're practicing a coin retention, you're studying what it looks like to put the coin in your hand, and you're watching it back. But then you're trying to make the pretending putting the coin in your hand match that as close as possible. So it also taught me that I used to. Oh, this is another thing I used to do. I used to do a lot of drawing. Pretty good, like pencil drawings and stuff. Like I used to do commissions and stuff. I was really quite good at that. But one thing, it's the same skill there. That you call it a drawer's eye, where you can spot immediately. It's like spot the difference. This is my drawing. There's something not quite with it. Oh, it's the angle of the eyes compared to the nose, compared to this one here, and all the little things. And it's the same with sleight of hand. When you try to recreate an action, it's the exact same skill.
Thinking about what would this really look like if I'd done it for real?
If I really put my coin in that hand, what? Yeah, like film. This is where I say film yourself. Film yourself. Put the coin in your hand. Right. Okay, that's what it looks like. And now try and make that as close to possible.
Yeah. Or if the hand was really empty, what would an empty hand look like?
Exactly.
Like this, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. So you mentioned there about a live show. So the upcoming tour, what can you tell us about it? Because I'm sure people are going to want to come and see it. So what are the details? What can you tell us? What can we expect?
So the tour is called Part-Time Wizard, Full-Time Moron, right? Which is also a callback to the first line I said on Britain's Got Talent, and was also the first joke I ever wrote for my stand-up set. And it's also like the through line of the show, which is now I'm kind of going from being a part-time wizard, full-time moron to a full-time wizard, full-time moron.
It also plays really nice. Sorry to cut you off there, but it also plays really nicely into what you were saying before about, I'm kind of good at this thing.
Yeah.
But that's really sad. And you're doing that whole self-deprecating thing.
Yeah. And also like it says comedy magic as well. It's like, it's a magic show, but it doesn't. So as a title, I was dead happy with that. The tour was going to be end of this month, but we had to reschedule it. Instead of 5 dates, we're doing about 20 odd dates all across the country, but next year. And I'm also doing the show, or a version of the show, at Blackpool Magic Convention.
Yes.
Doing an hour's version of it instead of 90 minutes. So so the show itself, I would say it's if a comedian did magic is how I'm looking at it.
Okay.
And it's also like without. I see it's weird me bigging up the thing that I'm doing now. It feels wrong, but I feel like magicians will watch it and go, I've never seen out like that. I've never seen magic presented in that way. Like I've got doing stuff with a camera and a screen, and it's all trying to make things play bigger. And there's a lot of meta stuff going on. And I don't want to give away too much, but there's
no.
I'm trying to capture what makes my videos unique and try and do that live.
Cool. So for those people who do want to see you then, I know the tour locations and dates haven't been announced yet, but that'll be next year. So if people keep an eye out on the social media, your website, best places to go?
Yeah, my social media, Jack Rhodes on YouTube and Jack Rhodes YT on everything else. I put everything out on there. So announcement will be coming soon. I'm doing a one-off of the show in my hometown, 6th of December. That'll be announced soon. So if anyone local to me, come and watch it there. But Blackpool next year, and then properly taking it on tour. Next year. Looking forward to it.
Cool. So what I'll do is below the video on Patreon and on YouTube as well, we'll put the links to to your website and your socials and things like that. But I will. Well, now that you've told me there's one in your hometown, I'm tempted to be trying to see if I'm free for the one in December. See if I can make my way up.
But that'll be good. That.
Yeah, but if not, I'll definitely see it at Blackpool because I'll see you there. But for those watching, if you want to check Jack out, check out the links below. Definitely go and see his live show. But I'm out of questions, and I was thinking about half an hour. We've gone way over, but that's fine. But
that's me babbling on.
No, it's all good. It's really interesting, man, as well. So thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it. I guess you'll see some people on tour. So thanks again, man.
Thanks for having me, mate.
All right. See you soon, Jack.
Cheers, mate. See you now.
Bye-bye.